Michael here with Jane Goodell, and we're just going to talk about Jesus a little bit. And one of my earliest memories of Jane was at a Vineyard conference. We had just briefly met, so I knew who she was, but I walked down to get some ministry during the conference, always ministry times, and I noticed the person in front of me has got this spiky hair, much like now, and I realize it's Jane, and as I'm standing behind her, I'm wanting to receive ministry, but the Lord starts giving me a word for her that, simply put, it's just that God likes you just how you are. And it didn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that Jane was unique in her expression and who she was, but I didn't realize the impact it had on you, and so
it was huge. It was huge. I told Michael, I think I said that day, nobody knew what I was struggling with internally, and growing up, I had problems with dyslexia, with numbers, and with letters, and I learned to listen really good. I had to depend upon that, and so I was kind of in between remedial classes and regular. And in high school, it was just really hard at first, but I excelled in other things, drama and acapella choir and in school. But anyway, but it just those few words, you'll never know what a few words when you say to somebody, because it literally lifted stuff off of me. I had kept to myself for a long time, feeling that I was a remedial pastor's wife, a remedial Christian. I knew without a shadow of a doubt that God loved me so unconditionally. I always felt very, very, very loved by Him. And but the thing was, I didn't play piano. You didn't do
the typical things that
I did not.
The pastors' wives did in that denomination.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. But we had awesome people. I could love on people. You could drop your kid off at 3 a.m. with a fever and a snotty nose, and with me, and I would love them. I did a lot of things I felt were Christian, right. And but I was never put in that position. But I made it a bigger deal. I made it. I just wanted to be more. I always wanted to be more, and as far as leadership in a church. But when Michael shared that, what God gave him, it just broke something out. I mean, literally, like somebody took a wet jacket off me. And it really, maybe unfortunately for some people, it freed me more.
Well, Jane, we got to be good friends. We'd hang out. We'd come down and visit you guys. You guys lived at OB, PB, but we'd come out in OB and hang out. And, we'd run to the store together. And I just remember, if we went into the store, we were going to be there for an hour, because we were there to pick up two things. Well, first of all, she'd grab 4 or 5 other things, but she'd always strike up a conversation with someone on aisle 7 or the cash register, and we'd be talking Jesus and just the friendliness. You just love people.
I love people.
That's really kind of your gift, your passion. Your hospitality is a big part of what you do, and it's like you overcame some of the difficulties. Not being able to read as well as you'd like, but yet you were able to learn in other ways.
Yeah.
Like taking your weakness and making it a strength.
Right. Like when you're blind, your hearing usually kicks in better.
Right.
You can't hear, your sight turns in a little bit better. And so for me, I had to rely on what God was telling me, or memorize stuff, or something like that. But also, when I was young, the Lord showed me His heart, and it was just overwhelming. I thought I was going to die, and it was so compassionate that it's hard. I don't want to sound flippant, but it's like you can hardly do any wrong when you come back, when you come to the Lord. It was like, it was amazing. And the compassion He had, I couldn't hold the pressure of that, and I felt it was killing me. And He said, I can't show you all my compassion in my heart, Jane, because the human body cannot handle it. And so from then on, I realized the compassion God has for people, from the worst of the worst to the best of the best. And I've always remembered that, and I've always had a real special love in my heart to make. I think everybody should feel important, or feel special.
Yeah.
And no matter who they are. And my mom and dad did that too. I learned that growing up. I didn't grow up in a church going home, but and it was.
Yeah. They were just salt of the earth people.
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
I don't know if I've heard that story about you having that encounter. How old were you when that happened?
Well, when I was young, about 10, my mom sent me out to get some meat out of the freezer, and it wasn't grounded. And she told me to repeat 3 times, "I will put shoes on, I will put shoes on, I will put shoes on." Well, I didn't. I mean, I was,
of course.
I was in a hurry, you know. And so I grabbed the freezer, and I got electrocuted. All I remember is I was on the ground, and I saw I was lifting up going towards heaven, and because I heard this voice, I could not go back. It was the Lord's voice, and the compassion in it compelling me that I had no control over myself. And then I looked down at myself, and then Father said, "You know, it's not time to go."
Wow.
And and then next thing I remember, a lady that was staying there, she ran over and was working on me to bring me back. And but I'm telling you,
that's when you had the encounter with the Lord? They told you
that time, and then when I went through cancer,
wow.
I had another one like that.
Right. Wow.
So it was. Once you see God's heart, it changes your life.
Well, that explains your love for people.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
What was it like, we chatted about this a little bit earlier, pastoring in a denomination that maybe you didn't quite fit into? Like you said, you weren't the piano playing pastor's wife, but you...
No, but Gary always got a real good piano player.
Being a musician,
he always covered me.
He would do that.
You know.
But you were kind of like the mom of the church and loving people.
Yes,
and
that was, and I could encourage, I could pray for people crazy. I could go up front on the spur of the moment. I wasn't shy or afraid like that. Where I felt insignificant was if I had to quote John 3. Yeah. No, I knew John 3:16. Everybody knows John 3:16.
Right.
But to quote scriptures like a lot of people do. But
you were kind of spontaneous. You get a download from the Lord,
and
you would.
Good spontaneous. Yes.
Just going for it.
Yes.
Yeah. Share the vision of flying over San Diego.
San Diego.
This is pertinent.
Yeah, this was years and years ago before Petco Park, and I was awakened and felt real impressed to go in the living room and pray for San Diego. And all of a sudden I was praying, and everything felt different. The atmosphere, the living room, myself, and all of a sudden I saw myself carried up over downtown San Diego, and I looked like Moses. It was really interesting. And so
you have a beard?
I had, yeah.
So you kind of saw yourself as
and
the Moses.
I wasn't gender confused. I want to say that. I knew that it was like the Lord had called me to prophesy and worship and hold back evil over San Diego. And so I was really high up looking, and I was praying, and he put a scepter, it was like a brass scepter, and it was just elaborate. And he said, hold it up and don't let it drop. And I was holding it up, worshiping over San Diego, and all of a sudden there was like an arena and a coliseum, and people, it was 4 doors, north, south, east, and west. People were coming in from all over California and parts of the world, really. Some of them had just a little suitcase, some of them had like a little hobo bag. They looked tattered, torn, broken, despair, hopelessness. and they were coming in, and it was called like a city of refuge over that. And so I would sometimes want to look down, and the scepter would come down, all of these black billowing evilness clouds, just a evilness would start to come in. And so I'd hold the scepter up and worshiping over San Diego. And I was literally carried away. I felt physically everything. And then it was like I just returned back in my living room in front of the fireplace, and I was trying to question what was that all about, because it was different. Yeah. And I thought, well, it's over San Diego, but it must be somewhere else, because there's no Coliseum or ballpark. And then a few years later,
right,
Petco Park was built.
Yeah.
And that was exactly what it was, that I saw. Yeah. And although this was years ago, I just felt that God was calling San Diego into worship, and as long as we can worship,
yes,
it would hold back the evilness that was meant for destruction, for people, you know, in their hearts.
And I think we've seen a lot of that transpire over the years. San Diego's, you know, was really known as a teaching city in the early days. You know, when I was in Calvary Chapel, and it was a great season. But I believe the Vineyard helped usher in some worship, and we've had Bethel and all the different stuff, and San Diego's grabbed a hold of that. And there are many solid worshipers, good worship leaders in San Diego. So I think we're seeing that come about, and we need to stay with that strategy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jane, I feel like in closing, I'd like you as like a mother in the faith to just look at the people and pray for them and bless them. Could you do that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd love to. I would just love to tell you all that you're vitally important. From the least of you to the highest position of you. Nobody is in positions. There's no levels. That all of us have a purpose. All of us have a mission, whether it's to stay home, wash dishes, and pray hard over your grandkids, especially now, or if you're in a business that there is no believers, to at your desk or your lunch hour, slightly just pray over your office. We have been given a gift of seizing the day of Christ for our area that we're over. And the thing is that you honestly just thinking and whispering prayers over your loved ones, over the area, over your job, over decisions, over what's happening with our future, with our world, with our economics. We all have been given a gift. Jesus gave us a gift that is so powerful that just to whisper a little prayer breaks and holds back something. It's vitally important. And never think you're insufficient in what you have, from the youngest to the oldest. We've been given a gift of Jesus to really pray for our country, pray for our family, pray for the ministry, pray for our jobs, and things are really going to take shape. They're really going to take shape.
Good job, Jane. You heard Mom, go do it.